Please be seated. Thank you. So, filming at meetings, firstly, I welcome you to the July meeting of Full Council at Tottenham Town Hall. Please can attendees note the information contained on the agenda sheet at item 1 on filming of meetings. To confirm that this meeting is being streamed live to the public and available on the council website. This meeting is also recorded by the council for subsequent broadcast via the council's internet site. Before starting the items, please can the Democratic Services Officer confirm with our sound and audio engineer that there are no issues with the streaming of this meeting so far and it is available to the public.
Yes, Madam Mayor, the meeting is live.
Thank you. I wanted to set out some important health and safety information for attendees to note. There is a long-running and lately more heightened risk to health and safety of elected representatives. As a council, there is an overarching responsibility to ensure that councillors are able to carry out their duties and responsibilities in a safe environment and without any risk of harassment, intimidation or violence. Therefore, if any interruption is deemed as a risk to the health and safety of the attendees, security will immediately take reasonable action to eliminate the risk and remove the individual from the meeting room. There will be no risks taken to preserve the safety of attendees, and I ask that attendees note this information. If any issues arise, I will explain the procedures. Item 2, apologies for absence. I call on the Chief Executive.
Madam Mayor, we have received apologies for absence from Councillor Orford Williams.
Thank you.
Madam Mayor, can I also declare an apology for lateness from Councillor Da Costa?
Thank you, Councillor Corley Harrison. Item 3, late items of urgent business. I call on the Chief Executive.
Madam Mayor, I am asking you to agree the admission of the following late items of business that could not be available earlier and need to be dealt with at this meeting. These are as follows. Item 7 is late as there was a need for a political group consultations on the appointments to committees following the changes to the political composition of the council. Item 10, appointment to outside bodies, is late due to political group consultations. In relation to item 13, questions and written answers, the reasons for lateness is that notice of questions is not requested until 10 clear days before the meeting, following which the matters raised have to be researched and replies prepared to be given at the meeting. And item 14, motions. The amendments to motions are not requested until 10 a.m. on the day of the council meeting, and we have received an amendment to motions A and B, and also to item 9, which has been published and distributed today in the tabled pack. We also have a minor update to the minutes at item 5, which have been recirculated for ease of reference.
I accept these as late items of business for the reasons outlined. Okay, declarations of interest. Please can members consider the information on agenda item 4 on the front of the agenda? Would anyone like to declare an interest? Okay, great. I'll take that as no. And item 5, the minutes of the council meetings held on the 20th of May 2026. I call on the Chief Executive.
Madam Mayor, I would ask the council to approve as a correct record the minutes of the meeting held on the 20th of May 2026, set out in the updated pack at pages 1 to 12. These contain the tabled amendment and minor clarification on item 12.
Are they agreed? Great, thank you. Okay. Mayor's communication. I promise not to read out everything, but I am very pleased to report to date that I've attended, I think, 49 engagements. In total, there were 69 events, and I would like to express my appreciation and thanks to my Deputy Councillor Makbule Gunesh and also the mayoralty representatives for assisting with covering all of these wonderful events. I think some of the key events have been how engaged young people. They're truly amazing, and I've seen them in a range of different events over the last couple of months. Also, the Armed Forces Day and Windrush Pride Day and Pride Days were also fantastic days, the flag raising and other events related. And I just wanted to also let you know that my charity is Food Bank Aid, and that is a charity that supplies, I think it's 6 food banks in Haringey. I will be hopefully holding some events, and I will let you know where the webpage is if you know people who would like to donate and support that. And that's it for my report. Agenda item 7, I call on the Chief Executive.
The report is asking the council to note the political composition of the council following the by-elections and to make changes to appointments to committees following calculation on proportionality and changes to committee membership notified by the Green Group.
I call on Councillor Payton.
I move that the recommendations in the report be agreed.
Are the recommendations in the report at page 14 of the tabled pack agreed? It is agreed. Item 8, I call on the monitoring officer.
Madam Mayor, I have no matters to report.
Thank you. And then we move to agenda item 9. For item 9, I would like to emphasise that this is a significant item, and we have received a written statutory recommendation and 2 non-statutory recommendations from our external auditor, KPMG LLP, on the 18th of May 2026. For the record, the statutory recommendations are for the council to 1. Increase its savings targets for future years and deliver savings in line with these targets. A wider range of transformational savings must be identified and implemented to allow the council to bridge the financial gap and reduce its reliance on EFS. 2. To change the culture across directorates to one where the financial implications of decisions are given as prominent a focus as the quality of service. And 3. To demonstrate a commitment from the Cabinet and officers to increase the level of savings being delivered and to make the process of both identification and monitoring of savings more robust. Council standing orders indicate that there are only questions from members on the council reports. Following consultation with group leaders and using my discretion as chair of the meeting, I will be allowing 2 minutes for a short speech, which will need to include the question. This will be followed by a response, and I will also allow a follow-up supplementary question for clarification purposes from the questioner. We have the external auditor present to answer technical questions. Please note that we've agreed 3 questions from the Green Group, 2 questions from the Labour Group, and 1 question from the Liberal Democrat Group. We will start with an introduction from the Cabinet member, followed by these questions, and there will be a brief response, followed by a vote on the recommendations. Please can councillors ensure they remain in the room for this item. Thank you. I welcome Christopher Paisley, a director from KPMG, to the meeting. And Councillor Beckford, you have 5 minutes to introduce the report and move the recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and welcome as well to Mr. Paisley. I'm speaking in order to introduce the report and move the recommend that full council moves the recommendations. As a new administration, we have come into office after a decade and a half of government austerity, which has led to one of the most challenging financial periods in the history of Haringey Council. In May, the council was issued with a statutory recommendation and 2 non-statutory recommendations by its auditor, KPMG. This follows from them raising concerns on value for money in both of the preceding 2 financial years. This escalation clearly demonstrates that our new administration and all councillors must take these recommendations incredibly seriously and act to improve the council's financial position by changing culture and delivering savings across directorates. The recent outturn report showed that the council had a £40.6 million deficit for 2025-26, which had to be filled by exceptional financial support. This emergency loan from government comes with a punitive rate of interest. For every £1 million of EFS comes at the cost of around £70,000 worth of borrowing costs, £70,000 which could otherwise be used to employ 2 new local authority teachers or could have paid to get 7 rough sleepers off the streets for good. As the council well knows, the 2026-7 budget shows an even greater reliance on EFS, rising to £84 million. Of the 8 local authorities in London reliant on EFS, we are in the 2nd most precarious position. This emergency loan scheme is a relatively new phenomenon, but it's increasingly spreading across the length and breadth of the country and will continue to do so until national politics changes. Now, while you may expect me to point the finger at previous local administrations for their decision making, and clearly some decisions have not helped our current predicament, the origins of our financial predicament lies in Westminster, not in Wood Green. Since the onset of austerity in 2010, Haringey's government grant has been cut by £143 million, or 55% in real terms. And yet, despite this austerity, the demands on our services has continued to increase. The housing crisis has driven up requirements on temporary accommodation. Social care is increasingly unaffordable as successive governments pass the buck on a national care service, and a failing funding model drives schools to close. Local authority funding has led to the outsourcing of services over many years for the benefit of the few at the expense of the many. Private companies can impose eye-watering costs on councils in social care and temporary accommodation, helping to contribute to around 80% of our budget being spent on services that we must legally deliver. The incoming Prime Minister has said some encouraging things in the past about devolving money and power to local authorities and about tackling some of the underlying causes of the rigged markets in housing and social care. His challenge now is to turn words into action, and we hope that he can follow through on his promises and not fall foul to party orthodoxy. While this administration will continue to campaign for a fairer funding settlement and transformative solutions like rent controls, a national care service and a land value tax, clearly, as councillors of all parties and the new administration, we must maintain the confidence of all our partners and take seriously the need to stabilise council finances. The council already has a 3-year financial resilience plan in place, which identifies 8 priority areas to reduce costs and increase income collection, and ensures that finances are working for the benefit of all residents. There are now much stronger governance arrangements around council spending to ensure value for money and responsible decision making, committing to ensuring that we are delivering services at the best possible value to all our residents is vital to demonstrating our recognition of the financial challenges that we face. We know that as an administration that focuses on prevention, an invest to save agenda, competitive and responsible procurement, and reducing unnecessary waste, we can free up the resources to deliver for residents in a fair and progressive way. And we want all councillors and residents to come on this journey with us, with transparency and accountability at the heart of everything we do. We'll be developing a new financial transparency dashboard for residents to understand how we are spending our budgets, and we'll be exploring options for much wider resident participatory budgeting. In the coming months, we'll be holding town halls to hear directly from residents in every corner of the borough to best understand their priorities. We're committed to taking action, rising to the challenge and working with communities to best deliver our finances and making the case for lasting change to government. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. And I think that was probably your maiden speech, so excellent timing as well.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have first question from Councillor Jenner, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The consequences of austerity are not unique to Haringey. Its impacts can be felt across the country, felt most by the poorest and most vulnerable in our communities. Does the Cabinet member recognise that any fight against austerity needs to be a national movement? And therefore, will he commit, on behalf of the administration, to attend the cross-party emergency anti-austerity summit hosted by Hackney Council in September?
Thank you for the question. Yeah, I completely agree that national crises require wider cooperation wherever possible. In the early weeks of the new administration, we've been speaking with colleagues across the capital to learn from best practice and to discuss collective responses to shared issues. For example, we supported the campaign to reverse the Mayor of London's proposed cuts to affordable housing numbers in new developments, and I'm delighted that that campaign has successfully increased affordable housing commitments. When around 1 in 50 Londoners is homeless, then this would have been a regressive step, and it is an evidence that active and engaged councils working together can drive political change. But ultimately, as I mentioned before, Westminster needs to grasp the nettle and tackle some of the big political challenges that drain away council resources, from housing to adult social care and children's services. Reversing the impacts of austerity and devolving power back to local authorities must be part of that change. So I can confirm that this administration will attend the anti-austerity summit. And given Haringey's current political makeup, and the important role that all councillors have in the council's future financial position, I hope that we'll see members of both opposition parties attending as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. Councillor Jenner, do you have a supplementary question?
No, I don't.
Thank you. That concludes question 1. Councillor Ali, you have the next question and you have 2 minutes. And just for your note, Councillor Beckford, can you indicate whether you would like to answer the question or refer it to Mr. Paisley at each point? Okay, Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We all know Haringey's financial position has to be considered with regards to the historical cuts that council budgets have received under previous governments. In real terms, 55% of Haringey's budget was core budget was cut. In that context, transformational change is required across the council, and that becomes more difficult, but also more crucial. The auditors were very clear that this full council needs to agree 2 things. Firstly, to decide whether to accept the statutory recommendation, but also to agree the actions that will be taken in response to the recommendations. Now, the response here before us, provided by the councillor, is completely inadequate, and it's a paltry response. There appears to be a continued inability to strategically look across the council at the transformational change required to deliver real savings and increase income in the medium term. And in that way, that will strengthen our resilience of our residents and our borough. Once again, individual services are being looked at in isolation for cuts. What are the plans for economic improvement for Invest to Save? The medium and the auditors were also very clear about the lack of capacity to the savings and incomes. Now, while spending control panels exist, such by our previous administration, the recruitment fees, that will all bring down sort of spending in the previous financial year. That's not a long-term plan. Now, the point I also wanted to make was on the issue of additional transparency monitoring. That's quite missing from your response, Councillor. So the Council has already reported quarterly to Cabinet and to OSC. However, that's not been plainly made clear in terms of the regular reporting, and the recommendations don't actually provide any additional scrutiny during this entire process. You refer to the 3-year financial resilience plan. However, that's not due to be published until the end of the next iteration of the MTFS report, now postponed to November, as we understand. Now, we as a council are unable to scrutinise your plans that we expected to vote on today and to approve. So it's not surprising, or perhaps surprising, that a party opposite are calling for the books to be open during the campaign, and for there to be greater scrutiny, greater transparency, all things that I welcome and my group welcomes. But again, you've not had the temerity to come here tonight and to actually sign off a response where there's no such plans. So I have grave concerns, Madam Mayor, and on my question, which I'll come to now,
Thank you.
as you're waiting for very patiently, is to the auditors. I'd like to know what will you be looking for as progress?
Mr. Paisley, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you for the question. So, I mean, I can't be drawn on the specifics of the response, such a, sort of novel as they are, and also not yet approved. I mean, I think it's spelled out in the letter that we've issued that what you have is an escalation process over a 3-year, over a sort of 2 to 3 year window, where the reliance on EFS has deepened, deteriorated, and so on. So I think to answer it directly, what good would look like would be setting a budget for next year, which reduces that reliance. It's quite simple. I'll put it in the most simple terms I can. Reducing that reliance, ideally, obviously, going forward, you want to get to a point where you're not relying on EFS at all. Whether that's reasonable or not, I don't know. But certainly lessening that reliance would be a positive step. Hope that answers your question.
Do you have a follow-up question, Councillor Ali?
I do, Madam Mayor. As I was politely interrupted by your good self, I wanted to come to the Financial Recovery Board, which you mentioned, I believe, in your speech. We're not aware of any published agendas, minutes, and as a council, we're not able to scrutinise the effectiveness. How do you surmise that we engage in that process, as we're not able to see any form of transparency or scrutiny or to scrutinise the budgets during this process? We're relying on the MTFS process. You said November might be the earliest you can come to this council with some information. What do you think we should do between now and November?
Councillor Beckford, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. So, I mean, what I mentioned in my speech was the need to bring residents front and centre as part of this. And so the financial transparency dashboard is about opening up the process and communicating that kind of financial information to residents far and wide. You know, there is information that exists on the website, but you can see from previous engagement in budgetary processes that actually the engagement outside of councillors and outside of the chambers is unfortunately lacking. So we want to improve that, absolutely. What I would say to the councillor is that absolutely we want the officers to be working as quickly as possible and as hard as possible to deliver options for us to take decisions. And we absolutely welcome the opportunity to discuss those with all councillors around here, given the political situation. What I hope he's not encouraging is that that process is in any way rushed, so that we can make sure that we have the right information in front of us when we're making decisions. And that's just part of good policy making.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. And could I remind councillors that they could please stand when speaking? Don't worry. That concludes question 2. So I now call on Councillor Corey Harrison. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So for a number of years now, the Lib Dem group have been the only party in Haringey forewarning about the impending state of the council's finances. We warned the previous Labour administration the council had to take action a great number of years ago when they still had a healthy balance sheet and tens of millions in reserves. We warned them about their unprecedented levels of borrowing. We warned them about their no savings budget, but time and time again, we were ignored. So it's no surprise to see this report, this notice issued this year. Now, our hope was that a new administration would mean a greater realisation on the fundamental turnaround and cultural change needed within the council. However, the Green Party made next to no plans in their manifesto regarding any of these matters. So to date, it is unclear what their plans are to turn things around. But our group takes strong financial management and good governance incredibly seriously. And whilst this is alarming, we are somewhat relieved to see KPMG recognise the same issues we have over the past few years and pass their own formal recommendations for getting things under control. Whilst we welcome the recommendations as written, we believe that further or even more stringent recommendations might have been expected by the council's auditors. We welcome Labour's amendment calling for members to be part of the Financial Oversight Board, something we stated should happen from the start when we proposed the idea, and something we asked for and got a level of commitment from Councillor Beckford on at Cabinet last week. We accept the officer's response to the KPMG recommendations and will therefore vote in support of the amendment and other recommendations this evening, but we would have liked to have seen an even greater level of action in response to the recommendations from council officers. As much of what is proposed in response, we feel, are measures already in place that are not going to offer the turnaround needed. We therefore believe that a financial turnaround plan drawn up and agreed on by all 3 political parties in Haringey and concluded in advance of the budget consultation period this year and therefore presented to full council by the end of October should now be an immediate priority and commitment. That would clearly demonstrate to the auditors, the government and our residents that all parties,
please,
I will, that all parties are working together in this no overall control environment. Will Councillor Beckford and the Green Party agree with our request and commit to this? Thank you.
Councillor Beckford, you have 2 minutes to respond.
Thank you. And I will stand up this time. Thank you very much, Councillor, for your contributions. We've said that accountability and transparency wants to be a firm part of this process, and so we're very, very happy to speak to all councillors about the financial situation that we find ourselves in, and to work together to ultimately find adequate solutions to that. I know that officers have briefed opposition leaders on this just last week, which I think is absolutely as it should be, and I'm very happy to have those kind of discussions with opposition members. So I'm very open to the idea of this of the new board, and that's something that we can work on together. Ultimately, I think we need to recognise as well that there has been a shift when it comes to Haringey's politics. There is a change which was voted on in May, and that was to deliver more accountability and more direct engagement with residents, as I've spoken about, with the need for things like participatory budgeting and a financial resilience plan. And we are going to be centering the residents themselves in all of our activities, and I hope that's something that councillor will also join with us to do as well. So absolutely open to the increased transparency and engagement with opposition councillors. We'll absolutely look into that. That's something we're happy to do. So yeah.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary question, Councillor Corley Harrison?
I do. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps I'd like to invite the lead cabinet member to meet over the next week or two to discuss what our financial turnaround plan might look like and how we can work together on that. Thanks.
Councillor Beckford.
I mean, I'm always happy to meet with anyone. So just, yeah, let's chat.
Thank you. That concludes question 3. Question 4, Councillor Bell, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask the Cabinet Member what action is being taken by the administration already to balance financial discipline with our commitments to invest in residents' wellbeing, community resilience, and the frontline services that matter most to local people.
Yes, thank you, Councillor. So to be very clear, we support the strengthened governance frameworks that are highlighted in the response to the statutory recommendation. But I think it's important to draw out a couple of examples that really show how the administration itself is embodying good value for money and also centering residents in its decision making. So, for example, some of the work that we are beginning on our Popular Assets Commission policy, where we're looking to try and put power back in the hands of communities. Most crucially, this will drive a thriving community sector, delivering innovative projects across the borough for communities and by communities. But this will also bring in additional revenue into the council. Similarly, we're bringing an invest to save approach to the housing revenue account, for example. My colleague, the cabinet member for housing, took the decision to procure a contract just at cabinet last week, which will potentially double the council's capacity to turn around empty homes for families again. Again, the most important thing is that's putting much needed respite back to families who are at the sharp end of the housing and affordability crises, but it will also increase council revenues with those as those properties contribute rents. As I've mentioned a couple of times, we are pledging to put transparency at the heart of our financial decision making. So we've begun to work with council officers, on the new financial transparency dashboard, as I mentioned, so that everybody can see where their council tax money goes, if it goes to rubbish collections, libraries, leisure centres, etc. And our appeal to residents who are hopefully watching some of this is to attend your local ward surgeries, to speak to your councillors and talk about what those services do for you and how we can all together improve them.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. Councillor Bell, do you have a supplementary question for clarification purposes? You have 1 minute, and Councillor Beckford, you then have 1 minute to respond.
No, thank you.
Okay. And then the next question, I believe, is also from the Green Group. Councillor Anderson, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is to the Cabinet Member. Given the news today that we've got a new Prime Minister and he's busy appointing a new Cabinet, what message does this administration have for the new government in light of KPMG's recommendations? Thank you.
So thank you. As we've set out a couple of times, the primary author for the financial predicament has been national political failure. So currently around 80% of net council spending goes on 3 key statutory services. So that's adult social care, children's services, and temporary accommodations. And these are services that we have a legal duty to provide to residents. Their cost is tied directly to their demand, not the political choices of any local administration. So in a cost of living crisis and a time of vast wealth inequality, those demands and costs are rising. So in the last 5 years, net expenditure on adult social care, for example, has risen by over £30 million, and net expenditure on temporary accommodation has more than doubled. And yet the government's core grant, as has been mentioned a couple of times already this evening, has been cut by 55% in real terms over the last 15 years. You know, we welcome a lot of the statements that the new Prime Minister has said on devolving money and power across the country. You know, he said positive words on the social care crisis, for example, which drains away council finances, And, we recognised in his own words that the economic model of the last 40 years has failed to deliver for working people. And now the challenge is to show that those are not just words, and he must bring forward a bold plan. So that plan should include a national council house building programme, for example, to tackle our housing crisis. It needs to include rent controls to protect renters from unaffordable rent hikes, a land value tax to replace our outdated council tax regime, and a national care service which can extend public control over care and take it from the hands of private providers who rake in returns at the hands of taxpayers. We will step up to make sure that value for money is at the very core of all our operations, but we need the national and the local to work together to deliver for all residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson, do you have a supplementary question for clarification purposes?
No, thank you.
Thank you. That concludes question 6. Thank you, Mr. Paisley, for being with us. You're welcome to stay, but we will move to a series of votes shortly. So in accordance with CSO 15.8B, we have received an amendment to recommendation 2 at page 11 of the main pack from Councillor Brooks and seconded by Councillor Carlin. As there are 3 recommendations, we will vote on these 3 recommendations separately. I will ask Councillor Beckford to do a right of reply after the amendment is put forward at recommendation 2. So we will first vote on recommendation 1, which is accepting the statutory recommendations and non-statutory recommendations presented by KPMG LLP at Appendix A. All those in favour of recommendation 1, please raise your hands. That's unanimous. Thank you. So recommendation 1 is agreed. I'll now move to the amendment. And Councillor Brooks, you have up to 5 minutes to propose the amendment.
Mayor, before I begin, may I say what a particular pleasure it is to be making my first speech in the chamber with my ward colleague in the chair. I'd like to move the amendment. A statutory recommendation from the Council's external auditor is an exceptional and serious event. KPMG has found significant weaknesses in savings planning and monitoring, creating a risk of significant financial loss. The law deliberately places accountability for a matter of this seriousness on full council, not just with the administration or the officers. So we must use that authority to decide what action is needed. Every member here must decide whether the proposed action is sufficient. Strong finances protect public services and the people who depend upon them. That's why, among many other things, Labour is standing up for the council tax reduction scheme. The proposed response points in the right direction today, but it is insufficient to meet the challenge presented by the auditors. It does not demonstrate clearly that we're adequately discharging our duty, and a gap remains. Detailed savings proposals and delivery plans will not come forward until November. Yet KPMG's concern is immediate and ongoing, not something that begins only at that point. So the recommendations from KPMG demand action now, but the response does not provide enough transparency to demonstrate that action until November. So we want to ensure that the response is changed to cover that gap. So our amendment provides the missing bridge. What it does is make the management of savings more transparent to members of this council. Monthly reports will be provided to a new committee, focusing on current year savings, beginning with within 1 month. And a member from each political group will be invited to attend the new board. The amendment is not an overstep. It is limited to the specific issue before us, the council's inability to deliver the savings set out in the budget, and that's the gap that we need to address before the November work is put before us. It does not require additional cuts or challenge the budget or its spending decisions at this moment. These are matters outside the scope of this particular amendment. With this amendment, the response becomes one that full council can responsibly support, and I ask members to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Brooks, and congratulations on your maiden speech. I think the monitoring officer has some clarifications to make.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just reading the amendment, as I understand it, it's not a committee, it's a recovery board, and I just thought that might be worth underlining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, thank you for that.
Thank you. And Councillor Carlin, you have 3 minutes to second the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I second this amendment on the basis, as my colleagues have said before, that the response that has been provided by the party opposite is completely inadequate. We are asked, for example, to support a financial resilience plan. However, the financial resilience plan is not in front of us today. And yet we are being asked in this meeting as full council to take it on trust that the financial resilience plan, that's what we're being asked to accept. There also is, as my colleague has said, a complete lack of transparency in terms of how these financial changes are going to be made. It's not as if the previous administration wasn't already providing and officers were not providing reports, quarterly reports, etc. They were plainly inadequate because that's the position that we're in now. This response doesn't offer anything further, and that's why it's not adequate. It doesn't take on the actual concerns that the auditor has raised. It doesn't look for how we're going to do something different, the actual strategic response that we need to see across the council. Once again, all we're actually doing is looking at cuts within specific services. No vision, nothing to do with Invest to Save, nothing to do with how we're actually going to, what about economic recovery? The things that will make this borough more resilient and better in the future. These are minor changes that we're asking. We ask in the interest of transparency, in the interest of bridging this gap. But really, the response that we have heard today is completely inadequate in terms of the actual scope and in terms of what we need to do to put this council onto a firm financial footing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlin. Councillor Beckford, you have a right of reply of up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to thank both the proposer and the seconder for this amendment. I would potentially like to point out that a lot of what was just mentioned in that speech seemed to be a reflection on the party opposite's time in office. If the argument was that there was an inadequate budgetary process, so I think that may have slightly undermined the point that was trying to be made. Look. Accountability and transparency is something that we want to do. So let's absolutely talk about this. I know that last week there was a meeting between the leaders on exactly this, to brief opposition leaders about this proposal. So it would have potentially been nice for that to have been brought up, just so that there's something that people can get across and understand the implications of. We've already had a clarification from officers exactly as to what the relationship of a new committee or a new resilience board looks like. So I would just appeal to all councillors to just speak to us. We're not trying to sort of hide anything away. We're trying to have discussions across the council chamber, and yeah, absolutely, we're happy to have these conversations. So we're very happy to vote in favour of this motion, but let's just do things in a better way so that we can all, ultimately serve the people that we're here to serve, which is the residents out there, instead of these kind of late discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. Okay, so we will now vote on the amendment. All of those in favour of the amendment to recommendation 2, please raise your hands. Thank you. I believe that's unanimous. I should give anyone an opportunity, but I don't think there is anybody who has a different vote. Any abstentions? Any against? No. Lovely. So the amendment is agreed. We will now vote on the recommendation 2, as amended. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Unanimous? Yes. It's unanimous again. Thank you. And now we will vote on recommendation 3. All those in favour of recommendation 3, please raise your hands. That's unanimous once again. Thank you. And that completes the item. Item 10, I call on the co-deputy leader of the Green Group.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the appointments to outside bodies be approved as outlined in the attached supplementary packs of page 15 and page 29.
Is that agreed? Thank you. Okay. We now move to item 11, reports from committees, and we have one report to consider as part of this item, which is a report from the Standards Committee outlining the appointment of political assistants and updates to the Constitution to meet 1989 Local Government and Housing Act requirements, and also members' allowance schemes for 2026 to 2027, updated to reflect access to the local government pension scheme. I invite Councillor Hodgson, Chair of Standards Committee, to introduce this report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to move that the report and its recommendations are agreed. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the report? No. Okay. Please, can we agree the recommendations in the report set out at pages 44 and 45 of the main agenda pack? Are they agreed? That concludes this item. Thank you. Item 12, deputations and petitions. We have received no deputation requests or petition items. So we'll move to item 13. To answer questions, I have accepted the responses to written questions admitted as late business. Please, can we receive them? Is that agreed? Okay, and we have 9 oral questions from members. Please, can councillors participating in this item be ready when I call them for their question item? On question 1, I ask Councillor Hodgson to put her question to the Leader of the Council, and Councillor Blake, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question is, what does the Leader of the Council see as the role of the local authority in relation to the current dispute between the NEU and Highgate Wood School?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Hodgson, for her question. Our primary concern is the impact of this dispute is having on children and young people at Highgate Wood School. Pupils should be able to access a high quality education without disruption, and we recognise the concerns being expressed by families, staff and the wider school community. This has been a long-running issue predating the local elections. 31 days of teaching time have already been lost to strikes over the last 2 years. I brought up 3 children in this borough. If my kids lost anything like that much school time, I'd be really upset. So I understand the frustrations that parents are experiencing. The council's role is distinct from that of the governing body, which is the employer and is responsible for staffing and employment matters. It would therefore not be appropriate for the council to intervene directly in negotiations between the school and trade unions. However, the council does have an important role in supporting the educational interests of children, maintaining oversight and maintain schools' financial sustainability, and providing support, advice and challenge where appropriate. We remain engaged with the school regarding its financial position and recovery planning, and are carefully considering representations that have been made about its circumstances and what more we can do in our role to support this process. In doing so, we must balance the specific position of Highgate Wood School with our responsibility to ensure fairness, consistency and sustainability across the wider school system. Any decisions that depart from established arrangements can have significant implications beyond a single school. Austerity, as we all know, has imposed serious limits on local budgets, and we all have to fight together to end the completely untenable position that local councils have been placed in. We have met with the NEU to understand their concerns and to encourage an early resolution to their dispute with the school. We want to see continuous dialogue and have encouraged this. I look forward to having distinct meetings with parents, the governing body and the senior leadership team in the coming weeks. Our priority remains to see a sustainable resolution as quickly as possible in the best interest of pupils. Any route forward needs to be robust and ensure we avoid any risk of future industrial action. I think this is what all parties want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Hodgson, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. How can the Green administration running Haringey Council credibly claim to be an honest broker and fair arbiter when a cabinet member has joined the picket line and the proposed settlement is both unaffordable for Highgate Wood School and inequitable for many other maintained schools in a similar financial situation?
Councillor Blake, you have 1 minute to reply.
In response to that question, I would defend the right for any member in this room to join a picket line, which I've done on many times in the past. In terms of the issues raised around the affordability of the scheme, we're doing everything we can in terms of trying to find a resolution. I think that was one of the reasons why the last planned action day was cancelled. And we'll be supporting that process going into the autumn, hopefully leading to a resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions in accordance with CSO 10.7? Oh, okay. That completes question 1. Can I call on Councillor Hodges to put their question to the Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure?
Can the Cabinet Member outline what improvements the Council is taking to help residents stay cool and safe during periods of extreme heat outside the current provisions of public paddling pools and public water play areas?
Councillor Wilson, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you for raising this issue. This is an urgent and pressing challenge for us in Haringey and for the Green administration. As I'm sure you are aware, the UK as a whole is underprepared in terms of climate resilience, and it is a priority of this administration to ensure Haringey is keeping residents cool and safe during periods of extreme heat, whilst also preparing the borough for a warmer future. Alongside upgrading our existing paddling pools and water play facilities, we are focusing on how the borough as a whole can withstand periods of extreme heat. Tree canopy can significantly reduce temperatures in urban areas, and we are investing in expanding and protecting Haringey's canopy cover. We are currently replacing and increasing tree cover across the borough, with 60 new trees being planted on streets and 40 in parks this year, alongside our ambition to achieve 30% canopy cover in every ward. We are also focused on protecting mature trees, which provide the greatest benefits in terms of shade, cooling, and climate resilience. We also have several cool spaces across the borough, including 2 libraries that form part of the GLA Cool Spaces program, where residents can cool off, access drinking water, and find respite during periods of extreme heat. Officers have also been actively working with partners and community networks to identify additional spaces that can be added to this growing offer. And we'd like all our councillors to use their ward knowledge to identify potential additional cool spaces to ensure even coverage across the borough. If members are aware of cool spaces that they could contribute, I would welcome those suggestions. Keeping residents informed is also a key part of our response. During periods of extreme heat, we provide targeted communications about the support available, practical advice on staying safe, and information about facilities residents can access. During the last heat alert, for example, the GP Federation contacted vulnerable residents directly by text message to share advice and support. We also work with schools and other partners across the borough to help people stay safe during hot weather. However, we know we must go further. The impacts of climate change are already being felt in our communities, and this administration is committed to building a greener, cooler, and more resilient Haringey. We will continue to push this agenda forward to protect both our borough and our residents from the increasing effects of extreme heat. Sorry.
Thank you. Councillor Hodges, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you. That sounded quite comprehensive.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? Councillor Corey Harrison, you have a minute, I think.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. With Priory Park paddling pool closed, other council outdoor water facilities become even more important, especially in this record-breaking summer. We've seen progress after much pressure from us as Crouch End ward councillors, local residents club members and the Lido user group on an increase in the number of family swim sessions available at Park Road Lido this summer, but evening sessions are still lacking. I welcome the Cabinet Member having already responded to our correspondence as ward councillors with the offer to meet and discuss our concerns, but there are a number of other areas regarding the centre that still worry us. Will you commit to getting staff in place to ensure the Lido is operating during daylight evening hours, which during summer months would keep the Lido open until at least 8:30 p.m? And will you agree to forming a joint task and finish group, including yourself, ward councillors and officers, to meet bi-monthly to work through getting improvements to Park Road to help it work towards financial profitability?
Hi, thank you for that question. That's actually really in line with a lot of the things that we want to achieve. And I think we have emailed about setting up a meeting. So I welcome that and look forward to it. We are in the process of hiring more lifeguards or recreational assistants. And I think you know that we're in the process of onboarding them. And as soon as we have them onboarded, we'll be able to increase the number of evening swim sessions at the pool. We're very much committed to doing that. And we appreciate you highlighting the strength of feeling within your residents and within the ward. I don't want to commit to a task and finish group, but I do want to commit to reviewing and establishing a governance structure for the leisure centers. Our parks, our libraries, they have friends groups that actively inform the running of the parks and the libraries. And we'd like to look at establishing something similar for the leisure centers. And we'd really welcome working together with you on that.
Thank you. I think that completes question 2. And now I will ask Councillor Williams to put her question to Councillor Yotzi. I hope I said that right, Councillor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Yotzi. Given this minority administration's stated commitment to tree protection, could the Cabinet Member confirm the current position and future prospects for the Oakfield Road tree in Stroud Green, please?
Can you hear me okay? Thank you for your question, Councillor. Thanks for drawing attention to this ongoing issue, which has been running for a number of years, as you're probably aware. In terms of an update, I've been informed that the matter of the Oakfield Road tree is being assessed by the insurance team and they will update me soon. This case highlights the difficulties local authorities face by the unscrupulous behaviour of an insurance sector who continue to hold councils to ransom by blaming trees instead of working on house foundations. But we can and should be doing more to push back, working across boroughs to see how we can challenge case law set by insurers whose claims are only set to rise exponentially as droughts become the norm in the climate crisis. I've reached out to colleagues in Hackney, Islington and Waltham Forest to see what can be achieved together. Make no mistake, mature trees are the fall guys in a flawed system of blame. Cutting trees down impacts our climate crisis readiness. Now and in the future, we will see both overheating and floods, which large canopy trees mitigate against. Heat kills, as we've seen in recent weeks. There have been over 2,000 avoidable deaths in the UK. We need to start viewing trees as essential public health infrastructure. Shade is political when it comes to health inequalities across the borough. Short-term savings for the vested interests of the insurance industry means long-term pain for all of us. As an administration, we will continue to invest in tree planting, but also to enhance protections for mature trees going forwards in the local plan. Look, clearly this is something I feel passionately about, but many in our community do too. And my intention is to do whatever I can to challenge the way we respond to insurance claims against trees, as well as lobbying the government, insurance sector, and working with others to make positive changes in this space. It is unacceptable to me and to us as a Green Party that healthy trees fall foul of a ruthless commercial home insurance industry. The value of trees is particularly evident in recent heat waves, where the temperature under a large canopy tree can be more than 10 degrees cooler. And shady streets should no longer be the reserve of the wealthiest areas. They belong everywhere in Haringey. Thank you. Councillor Williams, do you have a supplementary question?
I do, thank you. And thank you for speaking so passionately about the tree. But could the Cabinet member confirm the costs incurred to date in attempting to fell the tree on Oakfield Road and say what equivalent environmental benefit could have already been realised with the costs?
Thanks for this question. As I've just said previously, I've had no update on the costings of the trees so far, so I'm still waiting for that update. Look, everyone here knows we do not want this tree cut down. I don't think anyone in this room does. There are a number of claims across the borough against trees, and we lose an average of 20 trees a year to claims alone. Cumulatively, over 5 years, we can see how this begins to make a significant dent in our healthy tree stock. And this is a trend I want to see reversing. Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions from any? No. Okay, I'll move on to question 4, and I ask Councillor Anderson to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Climate Action and Transport.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the Cabinet member provide an update on the Council's approach to reducing the use of glyphosate across the borough, including any progress made trialling alternative methods of weeding and the challenges that are involved in moving towards a lower pesticide maintenance of our public spaces?
Thank you for your question, Councillor. As you know, biodiversity and nature recovery is crucially important to me, and I'm delighted to be able to champion it in Haringey. I will be taking steps to create the conditions to allow nature and other species to thrive in our borough. In cities, it's the pockets of nature, the small green corridors, green spaces, road sidings, the soil, plants and weeds around tree roots that allow bird species and urban mini beasts to thrive. The UK is one of the most nature depleted countries in the world, and the overuse of pesticides has been linked to major declines in wildlife, including birds, bees and hedgehogs. Pesticides used on pavements and paths will often run off these hard surfaces, further contributing to the contamination of the UK's rivers and other waterways. New research by the Pesticide Action Network has revealed that councils use roughly the equivalent of 23 double-decker buses of pesticides in 2024, with the majority of these toxic chemicals used to remove unwanted plants, usually for cosmetic reasons. I share concerns about the impacts of glyphosate on human health, especially its exposure to children. Its links to cancers and other diseases like Parkinson's is extremely worrying. From the emails I've been receiving from teachers in schools to residents who simply want to plant flowers in their tree pits, people want assurance that we are taking their concerns seriously. I was pleased to learn from officers that across our parks, we no longer use glyphosate, except in limited situations like the treatment of invasive species. But now we need to be more ambitious on our highways, in our estates and on our streets, and follow the 45% of councils who have stopped or reduced pesticide use. I'm asking officers how they can support the steps needed to end the use of pesticides in Haringey. Trials of stopping weeding in a number of streets, raising money to try alternatives or reduce spraying over time are all approaches being discussed right now in initial conversations. On highways and housing land, I will strive to see the same approach. This may realistically have to be done in a phased approach in pilot schemes, but we are actively reaching out to other boroughs to see how they've managed the shift. Our Green Party manifesto states that we want to become a pesticide-free borough, and we intend to follow through on this. Thank you. Councillor Anderson, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? Councillor Emery.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Without the use of pesticides, can you outline what systems will be used to remove weeds and unwanted plants from our roads and pavements?
Councillor, could you please repeat the question because I didn't hear it clearly enough?
My apologies, of course. Without the use of pesticides, can you outline what systems will be used to remove weeds and unwanted plants from our roads and pavements?
At the moment, we're having discussions on the different approaches. We're at the very start of taking the steps to try and end pesticides in our borough. There are various ways, and there are alternative methods like using foam or a vinegar-based solution.
There's also the possibility of just letting the weeds grow, trialing a few streets, seeing what happens, seeing if we can work with residents collaboratively. Other boroughs have done it, 45%. The EU has banned glyphosate. You know, we really need to get with the programme, be progressive and start building back our biodiversity levels. Our insects are in free fall. It affects children's health, even unborn children. Glyphosate has links to travelling even through the umbilical cords and the placenta. So this is something, we just need to do this. It's highly important. We're having those discussions. We're going to come to some solutions by doing some pilot schemes. Yeah, that's the update at the moment. Thanks.
Thank you. I think that completes question 4. I'm going to move to question 5 and ask Councillor Brooks to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Communities.
The council owns a broad range of land and property assets, from corporate properties where staff provide services to retail outlets, commercial units and community spaces. These assets provide a valued source of income and social value to residents. However, they also incur significant running and maintenance costs. As a corporate landlord, the council has a responsibility to manage these assets with the greatest level of care on behalf of taxpayers and for the benefit of all residents. The council in recent years undertook an extensive review of its land and property assets and approved a land and property disposal policy, which set out a robust and transparent governance process. This policy strengthened the approach already taken in the Strategic Asset Management and Property Improvement Plan, the SAMPIP. With this in mind, could the administration outline the purpose of its proposed Popular Assets Commission?
Councillor Axett, you have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councillor Brooks. The Popular Assets Commission aims to democratize the ownership, management and development of community assets by re-evaluating the council's relationship with the profit-driven private sector and, where possible, replace it with a public-common partnership. Although the SAMPIP or SAMPIP was a step in the right direction in principle, it had many shortcomings which led to a loss of trust in the voluntary and community sector, as well as the residents who were left questioning the decisions being made about their community spaces that they rely on. The Popular Assets Commission intends to complement rather than replace the council's established asset management process. So the purpose of the commission is to make sure wealth stays in our communities and it isn't extracted as profit out of the borough, and to provide a structured and transparent way for residents, community organizations, and trade unions and renters unions to contribute their knowledge, experience, and perspectives when considering the future of assets that play an important role in local communities. This means that with the help of the council, your neighborhood is empowered to stop the sell-off of their beloved community spaces into private hands. It means that your local pub facing closure could be saved and run by local people. It means that a community can come together to form their green energy cooperative, alleviating their energy costs and the cost to the planet. All this while keeping wealth local. The Commission will help identify which assets residents value most, explore the social, economic, and community benefits they provide, and consider how those benefits can be sustained alongside the Council's responsibility to manage its estate effectively and responsibly. It may make recommendations on opportunities such as community asset transfer, partnership arrangements, shared management models, or continued council ownership where these deliver the best outcomes for residents. This isn't about disregarding financial realities. The council remains accountable to taxpayers for ensuring its assets are managed efficiently and sustainably. However, value is not solely measured in financial terms. Community assets also contribute to neighborhood cohesion, well-being, opportunity, and civic pride. The Commission will help ensure residents' voices are part of that conversation from start to finish. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Brooks, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Thank you for the response. Given the purpose of the Popular Assets Commission that you've just outlined, what financial analysis has the administration undertaken of its operating costs of the proposal, its potential impact on capital receipts, rental income, maintenance liabilities and planned asset disposals.
Thank you very much. So we are very strongly positioned that the Popular Assets Commission's main goal of keeping wealth local is in the utmost financial interest of the council. This doesn't mean that the council is not going to continue to make the financially responsible decisions that is advised to the councils in terms of the council's capital assets. However, who needs to be deciding what assets are the most important ones, that needs to be asked to the community, and not only asked at the end of the discussion, but from the very beginning, have them involved in what spaces remain in community hands, what spaces benefit the community the most, how spaces need to be developed, what spaces are underused, and one must consider also the benefits of these spaces on the council that may not respect directly financially, but have an alleviating effect on the council's other financial responsibilities, such as funding in terms of healthcare, in terms of education, in terms of policing.
Response to a close.
Thank you very much.
You. Are there any second supplementary questions? Councillor Corley Harrison, can Councillor Brooks ask a? No, that's what I thought. Councillor Corley Harrison, thank you.
Thanks. So I don't think we really got an answer then. So just as a number, what is the financial cost of setting up a Popular Asset Commission, a community planning support unit, a common good fund, a popular development assembly, and common associations? You must have modelled it to have proposed it. So what's the combined cost going to be?
So for a full funding of the Popular Assets Commission, that there needs to be extensive works that are done. This could be within the council, this could be working with outside bodies, which we're investigating and exploring at the moment. But in terms of the budgeting for the Popular Assets Commission, we are looking at many ways to fund it. And one of these, the most prominent proposition for this is the Tottenham Endowment Fund. But we see the community assets of the council as a very important political priority for us. We will make the funds available for it, whether it's through campaigning and whether it's through finding savings. However, we must also consider that the disposal of community assets previously also lead to council bleeding in the long term financially by getting rid of the assets that the council owns. There may be still responsible decisions that may need to be made in terms of getting rid of certain council assets, but again, that decision needs to remain in consultation with the public.
Thank you. I think that concludes question 5, and Councillor Brooks and others. The supplementary questions go to the party that didn't ask the question prior. So that's clarification for all of us. Can I move to question 6 and ask Councillor Reid to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Resident Services and Tackling Inequality? And Councillor Cooper will have 3 minutes to respond.
Evening. Question now. The long-term waste contract with Violet was agreed subject to the completion of a Section 20 consultation by the previous administration in March. Shortly before the change in political leadership, can the Cabinet update the Council on the work with the contract to deliver the administration's priorities on waste reduction, recycling, and environmental sustainability, including what opportunities exist to improve outcomes over its lifetime?
Thank you for the question. I would start with just the fact that time and again on the doorstep, without a doubt, waste and fly tipping were one of the biggest issues that we heard. And it's obvious why. Clean streets make us feel like our local areas are valued and cared for, and they make us feel like we're valued and cared for. But for too long, this just hasn't been the case. so many areas with waste strewn across the streets and our parks. Residents are rightly very angry. As the question notes, we inherited the Veolia contract. I'll be honest, it wouldn't have been our choice. As a Green administration, we would always seek to bring essential services in-house or form partnerships with public or not-for-profit bodies where we can. At the same time, we have inherited this contract and we're wholly committed to making it work as well as we can so that residents see real improvements. And as the Cabinet Member for Resident Services, this is something I take extremely seriously. And we're pleased to see provisions that are in the contract that should help the council to meet its simpler recycling obligations when focusing on waste reduction, while focusing on waste reduction. These include kitchen waste collection for flats above shots, mobile household recycling centres across the borough, and partnership with the Fixing Factory for reuse and repair. The contract not only has to be adhered to, but it has a clause within it that it has to keep improving outcomes over its lifetime. And we'll be working closely with officers and residents to make sure that it does. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reid, do you have a supplementary question?
No.
Okay, thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? No. Okay, that concludes question 6. Question 7. Can I ask Councillor Bell to put her question to the Cabinet Member for Climate Action and Transport?
Thank you. Can the Cabinet Member provide an update on the implementation of Haringey's Walking and Cycling Action Plan, including what progress has been made so far and what the key priorities will be over the next year to encourage more residents to choose active travel?
Thank you, Councillor, for your question. I'm pleased that Haringey is committed to making progress in creating safer streets. I want to make our streets more welcoming for everyone, from children who want to bike to school to women of all ages and backgrounds who are perhaps nervous about getting on 2 wheels for the first time. Women make up only 30% of the cyclists on our streets. So I want to change that in Haringey. In recently published scorecards from the CPRE, an independent environmental organisation, Haringey did well on expanding our 20 miles per hour coverage, as well as CPZ schemes and school streets. But there is more work to do. I want to go bigger and bolder. Protected cycle track coverage remains low for an inner London borough at just 3%. We need to do better, and over the next few years, I'll be working with officers to create a more complete cycling network to close some of the glaring gaps. So building first-rate cycle lanes and walking routes is a top priority for this administration. No one should have to risk life and limb when they go out on foot or get on a bike. We all benefit when we have proper walking and cycling routes. Congestion comes down, pollution comes down, crime tends to come down too. Calmer, friendlier streets are not an impossible dream. They can be achieved. We want to build that vision from the grassroots with local residents and communities. That's how we'll create a fair balance for everyone on our roads. So we'll be setting priorities for protected, segregated cycle lanes on dangerous main roads for the first phase of this administration in the coming weeks. We're going to put in 8 new school streets this autumn. We're cracking on with the next phase of engagement and planning at the avenues in Tottenham Hale so that residents see changes on the ground from the Hartington Down Lane traffic and transport review as quickly as possible. We promised in our manifesto to deliver the Walking and Cycling Action Plan in full. We commit here again to doing just that. We'll be engaging closely with residents and councillors in the weeks and months to come on plans that will bring real walking and cycling infrastructure to Haringey at last. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bell, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you.
Does anybody else have a supplement? Councillor Ali.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I thank the Cabinet Member for her commitment to this area and for continuing on a number of the plans that we'd begun and signed off before the election. I want to ask 2 quick questions. One question is, what are the 3 most important schemes to you in this financial year that you want to deliver? There can be cycle routes, there can be traffic management plans, there can be bus lanes. What are the most 3 important schemes that you think that can be viably delivered within the next year?
Thank you for your question. Lots of plans are being discussed at the moment. You'll understand, having previously done this role yourself. But Bus lanes are really important because our buses are getting really clogged up. So the Hartington route we'll be working on. There are various routes I'm discussing with officers at the moment. I want to close some of the gaps. So do some of the, close some of the smaller gaps that perhaps easier and quick wins. But also I want to, I'm looking at various big arterial routes. I'm not going to discuss this right here with you right now, but I'm very happy to talk about it. You very kindly offered some support just about an hour ago as you came in. So I think it's a discussion to be had. Obviously, lots of residents are very keen for their roads to become safer, healthier and cleaner. So yeah, and I'm working closely with the highways and transport teams at the moment, deciding which are the most crucial routes in the next year, the next 2 years, 3 years and 4 years. But make no mistake, I'm going to be trying to tackle some of the bigger routes in our borough, which have been a long time waiting, and we need to take action on them. I'm not going to discuss in detail right now and commit to any of those routes yet, but they're being discussed
Sorry,
actively in
Councillor
meetings.
Yotsey, can you?
Sorry.
Thank you. And Councillor Arley, please do not interrupt when the speaker is answering the question. And now we move to question 8. Can I ask Councillor Ahmed to put his question to the Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure? And Councillor Walson, you will have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Hello, Councillor Walson. The Liberal Democrat Group have long called for a change in the way Finsbury Park is managed by the council. At the election, the Green Manifesto promised to renegotiate or end bad deals with companies, from Tottenham Hotspur Stadium to Finsbury Park, and to strictly limit major commercial events in Finsbury Park. Given the contract signed by the council in March, how do you intend to keep this promise to residents?
Thank you, Councillor. And thank you for raising this important question. Finsbury Park is an iconic park, not just in our borough, but for the city as a whole. Yet for too long, there have been many concerns from residents about how the park is managed and the impact of major commercial events. This administration is focused on getting the basics right across Haringey. And as the new Cabinet Member for Culture and Leisure, I was surprised to discover that our outdoor event policy had not been updated since 2014. This has left ongoing frustration between residents, the council, Finsbury Park, and other parks across the borough. That is why we are reviewing the outdoor events policy and the governance of our parks and developing something that is in line with the goals of this administration. This administration is committed to putting power back into the hands of our communities. And with that in mind, I look forward to working collaboratively with residents on the future of Finsbury Park while challenging officers to ensure that our future program is community focused. Through this work, we are focused on honoring our manifesto commitments of reviewing commercial events in Finsbury Park and reviewing all the contracts to make sure, including the ones with the Tottenham Endowment, to make sure there is a higher value for residents and that we are able to value our manifesto commitments and ensure a better deal for residents. Given our shared interest in improving the future of Finsbury Park, I would also be happy to work with councillors across the chamber on this review.
Thank you. Councillor Ahmed, do you have a supplementary question?
Thank you. Yes, Madam Mayor, I do. Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Have you managed to contact the relevant companies to explore renegotiating a fair deal? And if so, have you got an idea of the cost of renegotiating the contract? And do you have a business case for renegotiating it?
Yes, we have spoken with various companies, and no, we don't have a business case. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? No. In that case, I'll move to question 9. Can Councillor Clark put his question to the Cabinet Member for Resident Services and Tackling Inequality? And Councillor Cooper, you will have 3 minutes to respond.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can the Cabinet Member provide an update on the work being undertaken to reduce the delays in responding to residents' inquiries and service requests, including what further improvements residents can expect over the coming year?
Thank you for the question. So, I mean, again, too many residents feel that the council isn't listening to them as they struggle to get even the basics, quick answers to simple requests, clear information, trying to get anything out of the website. And changing that was actually a large part of why I chose to stand as a councillor. I wanted to be part of a council that felt like it was working for me and with me. And a clear starting point is improving the council's so-called front door, better customer services, or as I prefer to call them, resident services, because I don't think our residents are customers. And I'm pleased to say that this is a priority in the council's financial resilience plan. This summer, work is beginning on planning the priority digital improvements, cutting manual workload and speeding up responses where demand is highest. And demand is highest in two areas, housing and council tax. In housing, over the coming year, there are plans to tackle the historic repairs backlog while improving appointment reliability, first-time completion rates, waiting times and communication. In council tax, new recruitment means residents will be able to expect a response within 2 weeks. There's also progress to date that's worth noting. Customer service phone wait times have halved since July 25. But as a councillor and a resident myself, I know how much further we have to go. And working with officers, I'm determined to steer the real improvements that will see residents feel that the council, see that the council is both listening and responding to their needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Clark, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Are there any second supplementary questions? Councillor Corey Harrison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Do you agree with me that waiting 10 days for a response to an inquiry from a councillor or a resident is too long? And do you commit to reducing this by half?
I couldn't agree more that the waiting time is too long. I see in this role so many things that are coming through as members' inquiries or complaints or stage 2 complaints that very easily could have been managed had there been a decent service at the outset. So it's a huge amount of our time is being taken up with things that it shouldn't be, because right now residents can't get what they need in a lot of places. I can't commit here in the same vein as anyone else to a specific thing, but I know that officers take this very seriously. I take it very seriously. I'm actually delighted to have this portfolio for this specific reason, and I would love to talk to you or anyone else in this room about how we make better improvements. But I couldn't agree more that it's totally unacceptable as it stands. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the questions, and we'll now move to item 14. We have 2 motions for consideration. And firstly, I will ask Councillor Andrew Reid to move motion A on appointment of a Haringey Windrush champion. After Councillor Reid has spoken for up to 5 minutes, I will then call on the councillor to second the motion.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, fellow councillors, I stand before you today to move this motion, not just as a councillor, but as a son of the Windrush generation. I was born here in 1965. My dad came from Barbados in 1962. My mum followed in 1964. They came on the invitation of this country. They came to work, to build, to contribute. My dad worked hard. My mum worked hard, like thousands of others who settled in Tottenham, Seven Sisters, Wood Green, and across Haringey, in our NHS, on our buses, in our schools, in the very fabric of this borough. So when I talk about Windrush, I'm not talking about history in a textbook. I'm talking about my parents. I'm talking about our neighbors. I'm talking about the elders I see at church on a Sunday, at the barbers on the West Green Road, and the many community centres I visit. The council notes what happened to them. The Windrush generation were invited here between 1948 and 1973 to help rebuild Britain after the war. Then decades later, the hostile environment told them they didn't belong. Hundreds across the UK were wrongly denied healthcare, denied housing, denied jobs. Some were detained, some were deported, all because they couldn't produce paperwork for a journey they were asked to make. And let's be clear, while Black Caribbean communities were targeted most directly, this was not just about one community. The Windrush Compensation Scheme is open to other Commonwealth nationals who arrived before 1973 and their children, to those with settled status before 1988. That means Black African families, South Asian families, families in Tottenham, in Wood Green, in North Tottenham, who are part of our Turkish, Kurdish, and Somali communities, The census tells us that Haringey is 17.3 Black, 9.2 Asian, with a huge diversity beyond that. The impact of the hostile environment policy has been felt across our borough. The council also notes the number. As of July 2024, only 8,800 claims have been made, 94 million being paid out, but the Home Office estimates 15,000 people being eligible. Less than 20% have come forward. Finally, this council calls on government, make the Windrush compensation scheme simpler, make it faster, take it out of the Home Office and make it independent, and ensure every penny of compensation is tax-free. Madam Mayor, in closing, my parents came here in good faith. They paid their taxes, they raised their family, they helped build the Haringey we live in today. No one in this borough should be made to feel that they don't belong in the place they call home. A Windrush champion says to every elder in Haringey, we see you, we hear you, and we will fight for you. I commend this motion to the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. And congratulations on your maiden speech, which clearly was appreciated. Councillor Johnson, I call on you to second the motion and you can speak for up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Something this room and the people of Haringey don't need is a white bloke in his 30s getting up to give a lecture about the importance of the Windrush generation or how the scandal impacted thousands here in Haringey and many more across the country. There are countless people in this borough better placed to tell the stories that they and their families have experienced. What I can speak about is the cost of living. At a time where we're seeing wealth transfer away from ordinary working people and local authorities at a rapid rate, the Windrush compensation scheme is not only what its recipients deserve, but it can be a lifeline amidst the cost of living crisis. This administration is committed to doing all it can to ease the burden on working people and to advocate for those who experience an injustice that no one should ever have to face. This motion is a statement of intent of what this Green administration and what the Green Party nationally stands for. Listening to our communities and using our voices and the power given to us by those communities to enact change and empower residents. I would also join the cross-party movement, also signed by organisations such as Age UK, to call for the Windrush compensation scheme to be moved from sitting with a Home Office that's lost the trust of the Windrush generation and place that responsibility with an independent body. For these reasons, I second the motion my colleague, Councillor Reid, has put forward today and look forward to seeing more people from our borough receive the compensation they deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. And I believe that was another first speech. Okay, thank you very much. I have received an amendment in accordance with council standing orders, and I call on Councillor Berwick to move the amendment. Councillor Berwick, you have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm moving the amendment. So the need for a Windrush compensation scheme came about due to the abhorrent, dehumanising and racist Conservative policy of creating the hostile environment. The plan being that remaining in the UK would become unsustainable for many Black people. The desired outcome that Black people would live a life of destitution, humiliation, and disempowerment. Most activists would know someone who was affected by the issue long before it became an international scandal. However, many would not have envisaged the large extent of it, the scale of it. David Lammy worked hard to expose the scandal, organising a petition to demand amnesty for everyone who was a minor arriving in Britain between 1948 and 1971. In 2018, his question in the Commons described the scandal as a national day of shame, changing the course of history. The effects of the hostile environment was to see mainly African and Caribbean people stripped of their livelihoods, their homes, their futures, wrapped up in savings, investments and pensions, and in some cases deported to countries they're no longer considered to be home. Research at University of Sussex found that with a solicitor, claimants received an average of £83,000 as opposed to just £11,000 without a solicitor. We need to ensure that a council scheme offers a higher standard of support available, that our constituents do not continue in disadvantage, that legal advice as well as expert pension advice is available. We need to ensure that we do not replicate the harm and the insults already experienced. We recommend a cross-party working group, a Windrush champion from the community who provides leadership, visibility and accountability. We need a service which is well thought out, well structured, well resourced and brings about robust change. Achieving excellence in the compensation of our residents that they deserve. Our impacted communities need to feel empowered and an equal participant in the scheme. Their views, their knowledge, their lived experience to be heard and to be respected. The Windrush story is powerful. Reminder that equality and justice cannot be taken for granted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And congratulations on your first speech as well. I now call on Councillor Ali to second the amendment.
I'd like to formally second the amendment.
Lovely, thank you. That was quick. We will now have a debate in accordance with CSO 15.1, and I have received notification that Councillors Thacker, Joseph, Carlin and Corley Harrison are speaking in this debate. I'll first call on Councillor Carlin, and you have up to 3 minutes, Councillor.
Thank you. The party opposite claims to wish to work in a new way with residents. Collaborative, we listened to you. We heard a lot of that. Sounds a bit like the Haringey deal, actually. However, the motion as proposed does nothing of that. In actual fact, it proposes just to appoint a councillor. No reference to the community, no reference to working collaboratively, no reference to hearing from what people are already doing and what they want to do. No reference to how we actually go on to support those affected by the Windrush scandal. It's simply not good enough. So that's why the amendment actually proposes a working group with members of the community, with those already working with people who have suffered from the Windrush scandal, and to actually from the community or from that group, it could be a councillor, choose somebody on an annual basis to recommend to council to be the Windrush champion. That engages what is happening with the community. That's not somebody sitting on high as a councillor talking to the cabinet about what needs to be done. That's the way to do it. And that's why we put in that amendment, because supposedly, and I'm sure you'll all support it, because that's what the Green Party and what we stand for, working together with our communities. And how mealy-mouthed to fail to mention what David Lammy did. I was working as a parliamentary caseworker when those cases came in. Terrible cases. People who were halfway through the cancer treatment when it stopped. People who became homeless. Elderly people who couldn't go home to see a dying relative. Sent off their passport thinking they were still a British citizen and being thrust into the hostile environment. Losing everything. Their jobs, their homes. Terrible, terrible cases. And not a single MP picked that up until David Lammy did what he did. Until David Lammy worked with people from the Caribbean, with the leaders, organised the petition and asked that question in the House, the urgent question. Amber Rudd ended up having to actually resign over that. He changed what was happening. No other MP did that. But you couldn't even mention that. You couldn't even thank our Tottenham MP for what he actually did. And that is why the motion actually writes that and actually acknowledges what David Lammy did. So what I would ask is that everybody does actually vote for the amendment. A Windrush champion is the right way to go, but this is not the right way to do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carlin. I now call on Councillor Thacker. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you and good evening, everyone. So I will be voting against Labour's amendment. The Windrush scandal was a profound injustice. People who were invited to this country, raised their families here and helped rebuild Britain were treated disgracefully by the state. They deserve justice. But this amendment goes far beyond supporting Windrush residents. Large sections of it, as has been noted, are devoted to praising David Lammy. A shameful attempt by Labour members to rehabilitate this man's reputation. Let's start with the invasion of Iraq, which your man Lammy voted for. As a Haringey schoolboy, I once had the opportunity to ask Mr. Lammy about his reasons for voting for military action. He said, and I paraphrase, that he couldn't let the people of Tottenham down. A sacrifice for the people of Tottenham, apparently, was Mr. Lammy's justification for the slaughter of hundreds of thousands of Iraqis. Blood that remains on his hands, blood that won't be washed away by your amendment. Mr. Lammy also bears responsibility.
Sorry, Councillor, if you could draw your remarks to a close. This isn't entirely relevant to the motion.
No, I'm getting there. Don't worry, madam.
But could you get to the relevant
Yeah, I'm
parts?
getting that.
Thank you.
I see. Mr. Lammy also bears responsibility for another tragic humanitarian disaster of our time. As Foreign Secretary, Mr. Lammy has provided diplomatic cover for Israel's actions while opposing comprehensive economic pressure.
You're getting to the point of...
I'm getting there. Don't worry. You just have to be patient, madam.
Please.
Despite mounting criticism, Mr. Lammy and his government have maintained the transfer of F-35 jet components through supply chain serving Israel. Mr. Lammy
Madam Mayor, can I raise a point of order?
is complicit in the genocide.
Can we move on to the next speaker, please, if you won't?
Okay, I'll get to my...
No, I'd like you to go to the point directly or sit down. Thank you.
I'll go there now. Given that at its heart...
Madam Mayor, can I raise a point of order, please? Can I take...
Councillor Ali, thank you.
No, given that at its
Can
heart...
I seek your advice, Madam Mayor, how the...
Given that at its heart, this motion is about migrant justice...
Excuse
I don't
me.
think the council can behave themselves tonight.
I would like the point of order to
sit
be
down.
heard.
Myself or this
The
gentleman?
point of order was raised by Councillor Ali, and I'd like to hear that. Thank you.
Absolutely. Go
Thank
ahead.
you, Councillor Thacker. That was very riveting. Can I just seek your advice, Madam Mayor? The guidance you read out at the beginning of the meeting is very clear about the safety and well-being of elected politicians. And I think some of the language that Councillor Thacker has actually raised is quite deeply alarming and quite concerning, considering that we're all elected. And I think things like blood in your hands this language is not appropriate in this chamber. So what's your advice on what we can do to rectify that? I don't think it's appropriate. I think Councillor Thacker should retract those comments and should actually be sort of more concerned and conscientious in future when speaking. Thank you.
Councillor Ali, I've been advised that we note those comments and they will be minuted.
Well, on that point, then, can I also have it minuted that I think the comments are actually deeply disgraceful, and I think it's really unprofessional of an elected Green councillor to be saying to another elected politician that he has had blood on their hands, and I'd like that formally noted.
Your comments are on the record.
Can I continue?
And now we'll move to Councillor Joseph. Thank you.
Can I...
No, I'm sorry, Councillor Thacker.
This is not working. Yep. Got it. Hi, good evening, Madam Mayor, and to the committee. I rise in support of the proposal to set up a local Windrush working group. This proposes for a local person to demonstrate their record of engagement and how they can work better with the Windrush community. For me, this is not simply about creating a new role. It's about recognizing a generation whose contribution helped build modern Britain and ensuring that their experiences were never forgotten. The Windrush generation arrived here in the UK between 1948 to 1970. They came to Britain invited to help rebuild the country. They worked in the NHS, on our buses, trains and schools, factories and public services. They paid taxes, raised families, bought homes and contributed enormously to the communities. Like many families across London, my own family has connections to that generation. I arrived in the UK in 1985, being the last generation allowed to enter the UK before 1988. I grew up hearing stories about the sacrifices people made when they arrived here, leaving behind families, mine included, families surrounded and everything that they knew. They worked hard, often taking on difficult jobs and facing discrimination, which my mum and her generation felt, and I did too. And yet persevered because they believed they belonged here and because they wanted to build a life. This is why the Windrush scandal is so painful. People who have lived in this country for decades, people who have every right to be here, were suddenly asked to prove their status. Some lost their jobs, some lost access to healthcare, some lost their homes, some lost their lives when they were deported. These were not isolated mistakes. They were the result of systemic failures and policy decisions that had real human consequences. And why I do not believe the debate should become a political back and forth between parties. The Windrush generation deserves better than that, and so do I as a local resident. This issue should unite regardless of political affiliations. We should all be able to acknowledge the injustice that occurred, honour the contributions of Windrush generation, and commit ourselves to ensuring that lessons are learned. A local Windrush champion would be a practical and meaningful step. Residents need someone who is accessible, who understands the local community, who knows local organisations and who can advocate on their behalf when concerns arise. National leadership is important, but local accountability matters more. That is more principle at the heart of this proposal. By supporting this amendment, we are saying that Haringey values the contribution of the Windrush generation. We are saying that their experiences matter. We are saying that we continue to stand alongside those affected by the scandal and ensure that their voices remain heard within the borough. So let's come together across the chamber, not as political opponents, but as representatives of a community that believes fairness, dignity, equity and justice should be accountable. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph, and congratulations on your maiden speech.
Thank you.
I now call on Councillor Paulie Harrison, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We very much welcome the proposals brought forward in this Green Party motion today and the sentiment behind it. We hope that such a champion will continue to highlight the Windrush scandal and provide support to those affected, including, of course, with the compensation scheme, a number of whom reside in Liberal Democrat represented wards. We note that the Labour Party too has previously introduced champions in the borough to better represent the underrepresented, the oppressed or wronged groups, and have actually done so by direct appointment by the administration and from the administration, may I add, Councillor Carlin. So I think there's a little bit of short-term memory loss there. But that as Liberal Democrats, we too have brought motions in a similar vein of highlighting and supporting scandals, oppression and underrepresented voices within our borough. We will therefore be happily supporting this motion this evening. It is clear that both parties we sit with here feel strongly about how the Windrush champion is selected, and we are aware that in both groups this is the result of discussions that they have had with members and with residents of the community. We see the merit of both sides in respect to whether the champion is an elected representative or a member of the community selected by their peers, and we feel that it is not for the members of our group to hold the casting vote on that decision. We will therefore be abstaining on Labour's amendment to the motion to allow the Green Party, as the proposers of the original motion, to determine if they would like to agree with Labour's proposals for the champion to be selected by a working group from the community, or stick with their own proposal for the champion to come from an elected member. We look forward to supporting the motion being passed either way, and thank you all again for highlighting this important issue.
Thank you. And that draws the debate to a close. So in accordance with my apologies, Councillor Reid. You do, of course, have the opportunity to summarise and add your final thoughts, and you have up to 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to thank Councillor Berwick for the amendment. I do not doubt the sincerity behind it, but I'm asking the council to reject it tonight, and here's why. The motion is not about Westminster. It's not about who said what in the House of Commons in 2018. This motion is about Haringey residents right now in 2026 who are still owed justice. We all know the scandal was exposed nationally. We all know colleagues across the parties campaigned on it. But tonight we're here to pass a motion. We're not here to pass a motion about pardon, but we're here to pass a motion about action in this borough. If we start amending this motion to list of names for Westminster, where do we start? Do we list every MP, every journalist, every campaigner? With respect, that turns a motion about justice to our residents into a motion about political credit. The residents on Broadwater Farm and Seven Sisters in Wood Green do not need a paragraph about 2018. They need a champion in 2026. They need help in filling out a form this month. The amendment deletes the commitment to a lead member of the cabinet and replaces it with a working group that annually appoints one of its members to be a chairman. Madam Mayor, this is a downgrade, and our community will see it as one. A working group meets when it can, it reports when it can, it has no budget, no decision-making power, and no direct line into cabinet. A cabinet member does. What we propose is clear. A senior cabinet member accountable to this chamber every year with authority to liaise with the Home Office, to direct council officers, to fund voluntary partners, and to train staff. If we hand this to a working group, we are telling Windrush elders, we discuss you. We will discuss you. If we appoint a community cabinet chairman, we are telling them we will fight for you. This is not the time for process. This is the time for power and for delivery. The amendment sets out in the Windrush working group, but looking at the original motion already resolves to deal with the outreach on the estates. We don't need a new group to do what their champion is already mandated to do. What we need is one person with a name, a phone number, and responsibility that residents and community groups can go to. Otherwise, we create delay. And delay is what has stopped most people claiming so far. Madam Mayor, let me be personal for 20 seconds. My dad came from Barbados in 1962, and I said my mom in 1996. They didn't come here for working groups, they came here to work. They deserve a council that acts with the same urgency that showed when they rebuilt this country. Our late Bernie Grant MP taught us that. He didn't ask for a committee, he demanded action. So I ask colleagues to vote down this amendment and vote for the original amendment. Vote for a cabinet Windrush champion, not a talking shop. Vote for outreach now, not reports later. Vote for the residents of Haringey who are still waiting, because justice delayed is justice denied, and Haringey should lead. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reid. We will now vote on the amendment. Can everybody who supports the amendment please raise their hands? Okay. And those against the amendment? And any abstentions? Okay, so that's 21 for, 28 against, and 6 abstentions. The amendment falls. Now we move to vote on the amendment, on the motion unamended. So we'll now vote on the motion as originally put forward. All of those in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. The motion is carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We now come to motion B on the council tax reduction scheme, and I'll ask Councillor Chandwani to propose the motion. She has 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry for reading this from my phone with my newly acquired very focal eyesight. But I had a very different speech prepared and printed in large print. And then the Greens amendment came through this afternoon. So I drafted this on the bumpy W4 bus coming back from Broadwater Farm. To be clear, what we are proposing tonight is to agree to make no changes to the council tax reduction scheme, which reduces the eligibility of low-income households in the borough. This is to provide reassurance and security to our most vulnerable residents. I hope I haven't naively thought that this was an area of common ground for all of us in the chamber. The protection of our most vulnerable residents during the worst financial crisis of a generation. We understand the budget setting process, and we understood the external audit report in response. This is why we decided to ensure we set clear red lines tonight at an early stage of the fiscal management process, which is about to begin. Soon, you will be presented with a range of financial decisions to take forward, and it is important that the ethos of our borough is reinforced. We protect our residents, especially those who are vulnerable. That's something I believe we all agree. The Greens amendment is wordplay, long grass kicking. It is stating that you will not commit at this stage to protecting residents. I don't believe that's what you really wanted to come out tonight. And that you are prepared of leaving the door open to possible cuts of CTRS in the future. That you are awaiting proposals from officers first. That's how it came across. I believe the role of political leadership is to set the framework and be clear of what's not on the table. And tonight, I want us to vote very clearly that cutting CTRS is not on the table. I ask you again, please reassure our residents, all of our residents, those who are financially struggling and those who do not want a council that hounds people for money that they do not have. You eloquently highlighted the problems in your amendment. You genuinely understand. You are not oblivious. You all know. You can do something about it. We can do something about it, and we can do something about it tonight. Please don't get to a stage in late autumn where cutting CTRS is the only option and you are trapped by that option and it is something you're not comfortable with. Don't find yourself in that place. It's a mistake that will cost our residents dearly. This motion wasn't written to trap you, but support you to protect our residents. Reassure them tonight that you are on their side, a clear line that you will not cross. No changes to the CTRS criteria that reduces support. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I now call on Councillor Ali to second the motion. You have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Politics is about values. It's about what you believe in. And I know all of you came into politics with good intentions, good reasons. I've met many of you, had a chance to speak to you, work alongside you, and I believe you really came into politics to actually change the council for good, for the better, but also to serve your residents in the right way. But values needs you to make a decision, and you've got a choice tonight, and people are watching. Your residents are watching. People that voted for you, people that trusted every single word you said on the doorstep, everything else in your leaflets about protecting the poorest residents in the borough. And this motion does that. It's an area we all agree on. I agree on it. I know you agree on it. I know even the Liberal Democrats might even agree on it tonight. Who knows? We'll find out later. But it's something that really means a lot to your residents. And many of you represent some of the poorest wards in the borough. And you know how important this means. This money is money they can spend on food, on their school uniforms, on travel, on energy bill. It's not more and more money being clawed away in money they haven't got to give. So you've got a very important choice tonight. Do you A, sit in your hands, wait for some budget to come in November that tells you, well, a lot of the money is not statutory, councillor, a lot of it's discretionary, you can cut this money, a lot of poorer families will still get it? Or do you set a marker, a line in the sand that says, no, we're not going to let this be on the chopping board. We have values, we have principles. We came into politics to do good things, to protect our residents, protect the poorest people in the borough. So you've got a very clear choice tonight in front of you, councillors. And I actually believe you should vote with your hearts. Vote with your hearts, not with your heads, vote with your hearts, whatever you believe in. The reasons that I brought into politics. Many of you I know deep down believe that there's nothing contentious in this motion. In fact, you probably want to go even further and actually grow CTRS. And I think that's something we'll support you on and work with you collaboratively. But this motion is really important. Our residents are watching, your residents are watching, and it says a lot about this Green administration as to how it begins its journey for the next 4 years. Do you vote to balance the budget on the backs of the poor? Do you? Or do you actually vote with your heart, vote with your principles, vote with your values, vote with something that protects the poorest residents in the borough? Thank you.
Thank you. I have received an amendment in accordance with council standing orders, and I call on Councillor Cooper to move the amendment, and you have up to 3 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Chair or Madam Mayor. And thank you to the members who brought the original motion forward. As a Green administration, we're always going to support the spirit of any motion intended to tackle poverty and inequality. We know it's the borough to be proud of, the diversity, creativity and long-standing rebel spirit. And we know, as you've outlined, that our residents are suffering and struggling too much. We know it's the third most deprived borough in London and too many people are being squeezed out. But what the original motion utterly failed to do was put this into the context of why we are here. None of this is accidental. It is the result of deliberate choices, harmful austerity measures that have placed a stranglehold on councils and which the Labour government has done nothing about in the last 2 years. We agree that in its current form, council tax is a regressive tax, a very flawed way of funding local services. And we agree that the current reduction scheme has played a vital role in safeguarding thousands of families. We also note that the review of the scheme that is currently underway was initiated by the very opposition who are now proposing this motion. Our amendments situate this crisis in the context of austerity, and they ensure it's considered within a wider process, which will include public consultation and scrutiny. It also critically asks the council to develop a truly ethical debt collection policy, which will review in detail how we can sustainably end the use of bailiffs not brought in by us. We fully support the principle that the new Crisis and Resilience Fund must only be used as a means to support vulnerable residents. And that's why one of my first actions in this role was to reverse the position of the previous administration sitting opposite me to cut school meal vouchers for 10,500 children over these summer holidays. Together with officers, we're making the case to national government that the Crisis Resilience Fund must continue to allow these provisions for families in crisis. And in closing, I'd like to address the new Prime Minister. Andy Burnham has repeatedly said he understands the constraints on local government. This afternoon, he promised breathing space on the cost of living, and he promised to put essential services back under stronger public control. The question is, will the words match the action? Sorry, will the action match the words? This council will be watching, and our amendments commit us to working cross-party, to writing to government, setting out the national policy failure has done to our poorest residents and asking for real funding. So I ask everyone here to unite behind these amendments so that together we get on for the work that is needed to deliver what's best for our communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper.
Could I raise a point of order?
Go ahead.
I'd just like to raise Councillor Ali using obscene language under his breath, saying that the things we've said aren't true when I work closely with Councillor Cooper to reverse the decision to cut the free school meal vouchers.
That's noted, Councillor, and minuted. I now call on Councillor Beckford to second the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Oh, yes, I'm on. So I am seconding the Green Group amendment to the Labour motion. What our amendment does is go further than the original motion in setting out a commitment to being a borough that tackles poverty and inequality wherever it can. And it does that in the context of fair governance frameworks with accountability and transparency at their heart. And it crucially sets out that decision relating to the budget and follows correct procedure. It is worth repeating, as my colleague Councillor Cooper has, that it was the previous Labour administration that first signed off on a review of the council tax reduction scheme, meaning that this Labour motion appears to effectively contradict its own previous decision. Our amendment instead sets out a proper process around the council tax reduction scheme, while also setting out our clear commitment to the principles that underpin it. I absolutely share the commitment that those facing financial hardship should be supported. And so our amendment centres the belief by explicitly saying that decisions should not leave residents without sufficient funds to live. As we have just been discussing earlier tonight, in fact, it is of critical importance that correct financial governance procedures are followed to ensure good policy making takes place. Clearly, the right place to do that is in the context of a budget setting process, and we've already committed to further engagement with all members of the council to do that. I am sure that members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, which we believe are fundamentally of importance in this process, would also welcome the options of looking at all decisions related to council tax. And I'm sure even the Labour chair of that committee would agree with me on that. But beyond the commitment to the council tax reduction scheme, our amendment signals a broader and more ambitious approach to tackling poverty and inequality, and it recognises that local policy making cannot be split out from the national, as Councillor Cooper has already set out. This includes moving beyond the narrow scope of the original motion to commit to a more ethical debt collection policy, including the removal of bailiffs to collect council tax debt, and sets out a cross-party method to appeal to the new government to support and expand our efforts to support the poorest in the borough. I hope that all councillors can recognise that our amendment takes the spirit of the emotion, which I absolutely recognise the passion from members opposite, but it takes the spirit of that motion and it sits it within a proper context and with appropriate governance frameworks. With this in mind, I hope that all councillors can vote for the amendment and then pass the amended motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Beckford. We now have a debate in accordance with CSO 15.1, and I've received notification that Councillors Joseph, Ovat and Emery are speaking in this debate. I will first call on Councillor Ovat, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We all know the statistics. Northumberland Park remains one of the most deprived wards in London. Too many families are living in poverty. Too many people face worse health, fewer opportunities, and shorter life expectancy simply because of the postcode they were born into. But behind every statistic is a person. When I knock on doors in Northumberland Park, residents don't ask for special treatment. They don't ask for handouts. They ask for fairness. They ask for the chance to live with dignity. They ask whether they will have enough left to pay the bills after buying food, whether they can afford the school uniform, whether they can keep the heating on in the winter. One resident said something I will never forget. I do everything I'm supposed to do. I work hard, I pay what I can, but every month I fall further behind. Madam Mayor, that conversation isn't unique. It is the reality for far too many people in our borough. That is why this debate matters, because this isn't about figures in a budget report. It's about whether an elderly resident can heat their home, whether a disabled person already facing higher everyday costs has one less financial burden, whether a working family has to choose between paying council tax and putting fresh food on the table. These are not abstract decisions. They are moral choices. Some will argue that we simply cannot afford this support. I would argue that we cannot afford to abandon the people who need it most. The real question is never whether savings have to be made. The real question is who pays the price. Labour's answer is clear. It should not always be those with the least. Because fairness isn't treating everyone the same. Fairness is recognising that what is a manageable bill for one household can be a crisis for another. Those residents deserve a council that stands with them. Supporting this council tax reduction scheme says something about who we are. It says that in Haringey, we will not balance the books on the backs of those who already carry the greatest burden. It says that even in difficult financial times, we will not lose sight of the people behind the policies. Madam Mayor, this scheme will not solve every challenge facing our borough, but it will protect dignity, ease pressure, and provide security for thousands of households. If we are serious about tackling inequality, not just speaking about it, but acting on it, then there is only one course before us today. I urge all members to support this motion. And as I echo from my Haringey Labour leader, vote with your hearts, not with your minds, with your hearts, because this matters to thousands of households. So I hope you do vote with your hearts and be able to face them next time you see them on the door to say you voted for our motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Oberts. Could Councillor Joseph now speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to everyone in the room. So as a newly elected councillor in the borough, but a social housing tenant for the past 29 years, I have faced bailiffs at my door. I have faced cumulative debt because of council tax. So in support of residents living on low income, totally understand it. That's why my lived experience in the borough really matters as a councillor. When I'm talking to residents who are experiencing the hardest of deprivation, social, economic, I've sat there with those residents and I have been that resident with the previous administration. I have had bailiffs at my door, so I know the effects it can have and the deprivation and the ongoing debt, which I still at some point have managed to struggle with. I would say the financial implication of bailiffs at your door leads to poorer health outcomes. I've had them myself. Bailiffs at your door is a stressful moment. As a parent of 3 children, raising them, I've had those bailiffs at my door. I have had those court fees. So I totally understand where residents are coming from. And I totally in the best place, I feel, as a councillor now to understand those needs. So I support the motion to support residents at their most vulnerable. As a Green councillor, I fully support the council in ensuring no resident is left financially crippled and out of pocket from living in a borough and living in survival. Holding on to periods of time of uncertainty is a worry as a resident, but also as a councillor myself. So for us, and particularly for myself, I am going to work really hard to support those residents and echo what you said about the vulnerabilities. Living in the poorest part of the borough, I see it every day. So as a ward councillor, my commitment to local residents is to inform them on how we can help them out of debt, supporting this motion and making sure that every resident can feed their children, can heat their homes, and they can survive in what is a national cost of living crisis. So I support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Joseph. And Councillor Emery, I call on you to speak and you have up to 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Our council tax reduction scheme is a good scheme and is one of the more generous that is available. It provides vital support to thousands of Haringey households who are already dealing with higher and higher rents, energy costs impacted by world events out of their control, and the wider cost of living crisis. Haringey Liberal Democrats have always been clear. People on the lowest incomes should not be pushed further into debt simply because they cannot meet a council tax bill. That's why in my last speech to the previous administration, I pledged our commitment to end the use of bailiffs in Haringey. As just mentioned by Councillor Joseph, bailiffs deepen hardship and turn an already difficult situation into a crisis. An ethical debt collection policy should prioritise communication, affordable repayment plans and support, not enforcement that punishes poverty. Supporting residents earlier is kinder, more effective, and often less costly than trying to collect money from people who plainly do not have it. But we also need to confront the reality of the council's finances. As we've heard already tonight, we're in one of the worst situations in the country. Improving our financial position is imperative. If we cannot put the council on a sustainable footing, we lose all non-statutory spending powers, leaving our residents without so much of the support that we currently provide. Our financial instability is in large part due to a lack of support from local government. There are many funding problems, but as we have long referenced, no Prime Minister will take the leadership needed on adult social care. This leaves families in a state of limbo and is stripping our ability to provide what residents need. To add to that national crisis, we already know that the previous Labour administration completely failed to get a grip of the Council's own precarious position. Under that leadership, we went from a stable budget to the fourth highest borrowing in the country. Commitments outside of the budget setting process, such as this one, have to be carefully considered, as previous examples have led us to the mess we are in now. We now look to the new administration to tackle this problem. We must react fast before this problem worsens. However, we do have an issue with the suggestion of rent controls mentioned in this amendment. They have been proven to not work, increasing housing prices and lowering the quality of accommodation. We know the correct solution to lowering rent: build more bloody houses. With that in mind, we cannot support this amendment. Any council scheme should be properly considered with consultation and scrutiny. In a meeting where we have discussed the statutory notice from KPMG, it is not a good sign that we are discussing a motion seeking to tie the council's hands. No one wants to see the CTRS cut in any way, but no one wins if the commissioners get brought in. That said, our group knows the importance of protecting support for those who need it most. And so, when it comes to the budget process for this minority administration, we will push to make sure the system still protects the vulnerable in this borough. This is not a choice between compassion and responsibility. In the situation we are in, responsible finances are what make our compassion sustainable. Thank you.
Thank you. In accordance with CSO 15.11A, please can Councillor Chanwani respond, and you have up to 5 minutes to do so.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My actions are a matter of public record, and I came here for 7 years, year after year, recommending not to make any reductional changes to CTRS. But this motion isn't about me, and I'm not going to carry on the deflection. I'm really sorry it's become really defensive. I'm here to speak on behalf of residents, but also to you as colleagues. And I'm saying this meaningfully, with all sincerity, don't trap yourself. We can do something now, all of us tonight. Set the red lines now while you've got us all in the room, so that we have given officers clarity of what's on the table and what's not. If you have no intention to cut CTRS, this shouldn't be a problem. I thought it was a given. The best way to stop bailiffs is to lower or exempt the liability of low-income residents. The minute we take away that CTRS protection, then if we don't come for them by bailiffs, because I wish you all the luck in the world to ban them, but attachment to benefits and attachment to earnings is equally as aggressive. And so if we put these people in the firing line of liability, which we can stop tonight by making sure we protect CTRS, then that's the best way to stop bailiffs. There are tens of thousands of residents in our borough, across Tottenham, across Wood Green, Crouch End, Northumberland Park, Knoll Park, Stroud Green, low-income families, disabled people, children living in households of poverty. And all they want tonight that we can give them is reassurance that they won't bear the burden of financial cuts in this council. Now, there could be administrators that come in and make that decision, but we don't need to make that decision. They can make that decision. We can stand here with pride, knowing that we defended our most vulnerable residents when they needed us. We can give them that tonight. Political leadership isn't easy, and some of you know that already. So please vote for the motion unamended. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. We will now vote on the amendment. If it is agreed, we will vote on the motion as amended, and if it is not agreed, we will vote on the original motion. Can I see all those in favour of the amendment? Thank you. Can I see hands from all of those opposed to the amendment? Okay, so that's 28 for and 28 against. I have a casting vote.
Madam Mayor. I was an abstention.
Jeez. Councillor Clark, I think, was abstaining. Thank you. Just confirming the maths, that was 27 for the amendment, 28 against and 1 abstention. So the amendment is not carried. So we will now vote on the original motion. All those in favour of the original motion? Okay, all those against? And any abstentions? Okay, the motion is carried 49. Oh, do we see? I'm so sure I can see you now. Thank you. 1 abstention. We got the maths right? Yep. So the motion is carried, unamended. Okay. So thank you to all of those who asked questions and responded this evening, especially the first timers. And the maiden speeches, I apologise if I missed anybody. I just want to say that was my maiden use of a gavel, and I would prefer that it be my last. I expect fewer interruptions and points of order moving forward. We should lead by example and treat each other with respect on all sides. Thank you. That does complete the business of the meeting. I look forward to seeing you all soon.